Should we get started? Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm going to get to the point of this press conference in a minute, where we have some significant announcements about actions taken to prevent gun violence. But first, I want to address the election which occurred last week. First and foremost, we had a free, fair, and most importantly, safe election in the state. Last time you heard from me, I was with the Lieutenant Governor Tahisha Way and our head of OHSP, Lori Duran, talking about all of the measures that we were putting in place to ensure that the election could flow smoothly, and it did. 4.1 million New Jerseyans voted. I commend and am proud of each and every one of them for exercising their fundamental and constitutional right, and we had a overwhelmingly safe and free and fair election. In New Jersey and everywhere, we respect the outcome of an election. The peaceful transfer of power is a fundamental staple of our democratic system, and it's not one that people can care about some of the time. It's something that we should take pride in. It's core to who we are as a democracy, and President Trump is now the president-elect. He won the election, and he will be president come January, and that's something that everyone must accept. But, and this is something I've said over the past several days, and I mean it, this is a nation that is built on laws, and it's built on the rule of law. And those laws and our foundational documents, our Constitution, do not change depending on who wins an election. People have rights, and the rule of law must be followed. And if the president and his administration follow through on some of the things that they have said they would do on the campaign trail and in the 900-plus page document called Project 2025, in ways that violate our laws or undermine our residents' rights in ways that violate the laws, rest assured, we are ready to step in, and I will be prepared to sue him and see him in court. It's not something that I wake up every day dying to do. It's not the reason why I was honored to take this job, but it is something that I am now prepared to do to protect the residents of this state. Again, if the president and his administration follow through on what they have said, and some of the things they have said would be clearly unlawful, and we're prepared for that. And it's important to note that in prior years, during the first Trump administration, attorneys general in states like New Jersey did just that. And some of the successes that we had over 80% of the time in court against the first Trump administration were because of his administration routinely violating the law. And it's important to remember what those cases did. They allowed for millions of people to have health care and access to reproductive health care in this country. To this day, they still have those rights because of those lawsuits. Relevant to today's discussion, we protected common sense and entirely constitutional gun safety protections that keep our residents safe as we sit in one of the safest states in the country when it comes to gun violence. There are kids in this city and across our state who drink water that doesn't have lead in it and who breathe air free from contamination because of lawsuits that we file to protect common sense environmental regulations. And I could go on. And so we are prepared, myself and colleagues across the country are prepared to do just that. And we will not back down from a fight, regardless of threats or threats to undermine the rule of law, if it means that we're doing what's right for the residents of this state. And there are many people, and it's not my job to comment on why people feel a certain way about politics. That's not my job. But one of the things I have been saying for many years now is that it is clear, and it was clear last week, and it's been clear in public opinion polling for a very long time, that people are fed up with the status quo and a sense that the people that they've put in positions of authority do not work for them, that there is a corruption to the system that they feel. They feel it deeply. Just this week, I meet regularly with a group of students in Trenton, and these are 16, 17, and 18-year-old kids. And I ask them, how many of you feel that your leaders are working for you? By the way, I'm one of them. Not one person in that room raised their hand. And when I asked them who they thought they were working for, in unison, without prompting, they all said themselves. That is a core problem. And, you know, I have to say, in New Jersey, it doesn't entirely surprise me when they see leaders in this state gut transparency laws and campaign finance laws, when they see us defend what I've said is an unconstitutional ballot design system that serves to benefit a privileged few, when they see them attack good government watchdogs and threaten people in my office, law enforcement officers and prosecutors who would hold powerful people to account for violating our laws, when they see that, it's really no wonder to me why they feel a certain way. And so the one thing that I will say is that I think it's time for people in positions of authority in this state to spend a little more time questioning their own role in creating a system or enabling a system of corruption, and a little less time threatening those of us who are trying to do something about it. With that, I'm going to turn to the topic at hand. And it's this commitment to the rule of law and to the laws that preserve and protect the public in our state that brings me here today. And as I've said many times, my top priority, indeed my primary focus in this job, is and always will be ensuring that the 9.3 million people who call this state home are safe. And that's particularly true when it comes to gun violence. As our state's Attorney General and Chief Law Enforcement Officer, I am committed to ending the gun violence epidemic that plagues this country. And I'm proud to say that New Jersey ranks as among the safest states in the nation when it comes to gun violence. You are six times more likely to be shot and killed in Mississippi than you are in New Jersey. And why is that? It's not because people in Mississippi are inherently more violent than people in New Jersey. It's because of our common sense and entirely constitutional gun safety laws. And it's because of how we enforce them. It's because in New Jersey, we treat gun violence like the public health crisis that it is, and we use every tool at our disposal to keep you safe. We have the most robust intelligence sharing network in the country, which allows us to build complicated criminal cases against the most violent offenders, and our incredible law enforcement community is then able to hold them accountable. Violence in our state is driven by a relative handful of people, about 1,000 or so. And every day, attorneys and law enforcement officers in my office gather together to make sure that those violent offenders remain behind bars. And thanks to this statewide intelligence network that we have created and expanded, we've been remarkably successful in doing just that. Thanks also to Governor Murphy and the legislature, we have committed significant, frankly unprecedented resources to violence intervention efforts through the Division of Violence Intervention and Victim Assistance, a division that I created, which is the first of its kind in the country. These intervention teams, which are operating throughout the state, allow us to reach folks caught up in a cycle of violence and give them an alternative way to resolve disputes, one that does not involve pulling a trigger. And crucially, and most directly relevant to today, is we created the SAFE Office, the first office of its kind in the country dedicated to holding bad actors in the firearms industry accountable. This comprehensive set of efforts, tackling gun violence like the public health crisis that it is the reason why we had the lowest level of gun violence in New Jersey history last year. And this year we're tracking to be substantially lower than we were last year. This is translated into literally hundreds fewer people shot in our state than would have been the case just a decade ago. It's a historic and, importantly, a statewide reduction in violence. But what does it mean? It means that there are hundreds of birthday parties and weddings instead of funerals. That's what this work is all about. And that's why I've been so passionate about using the tools that the legislature and the governor have provided to my office to hold the firearms industry accountable when they violate our laws, just like we do with literally every other industry. This is a critical component of a public safety strategy that is working. Deferring bad conduct makes us safer, period. So today, I'm proud to be announcing the filing of 2 more lawsuits brought through our SAFE office against licensed New Jersey firearms retailers who repeatedly sold gun-related products, including vast quantities of AR-15 rifle ammunition, which you can see displayed right here, to our undercover investigators without the buyers first demonstrating that they could even lawfully possess a firearm, purchase them in cash without producing any identification whatsoever. Our laws on this are clear. Under the gun industry public safety law that the legislature passed and the governor signed in 2022, gun stores have an obligation to avoid selling gun-related products, including ammunition, to persons who cannot legally possess a firearm. It is both the legal and moral responsibility of these sellers to ensure that anyone purchasing firearms, firearms parts, or ammunition can legally possess a firearm in the first place. But Butch's Gun World in Vineland and Point Blank Guns and Ammo in East Hanover each failed to meet their obligations under the law and their obligations to their fellow New Jerseyans. Each store sold, again, 1,000-round case. You can see here, each one is 1,000 rounds of AR-15 rifle ammunition in cash to first-time customers without checking any identification. They didn't verify in any way that the purchasers were authorized to possess a firearm in New Jersey as required by state law. They didn't implement necessary safeguards for the sale of ammunition, again, as required by state law. They didn't confirm that the purchasers had the necessary permits to possess a firearm as required by state law. And they didn't confirm that the purchasers weren't subject to a domestic violence restraining order or otherwise prohibited from possessing a firearm, again, as required by state law. In short, they made no effort whatsoever to comply with our laws, the very laws that keep our residents safe and that have allowed us to drive violence down in our communities to historically low levels. In fact, these stores treated the sale of 1,000 rounds of highly lethal ammunition, the kind we see in mass shootings across this country, like they were selling nothing more than a loaf of bread. If we're going to be successful in eliminating gun violence from our communities, then we need to hold everyone accountable who contributes to that violence. It means arresting and prosecuting gang members who are terrorizing our communities, and we are doing just that. It means prosecuting straw purchasers who bring illegal guns into our communities in the first place, and we are doing just that. And it means suing and making gun retailers and other firearms companies pay when they violate our laws. Again, just like we do with literally every other industry. This is not a novel concept. These lawsuits are designed to hold these entities responsible and to deter unsafe and irresponsible sales in the future. But for too long, the firearm industry has acted with impunity and felt free to ignore our laws, irrespective of the carnage that they would cause throughout our state. With the creation of SAFE, we put the industry on notice that we would no longer tolerate the firearms industry violating our laws. And with today's lawsuits, we're once again reminding them that we will hold you accountable if you put our residents at risk. I simply will not tolerate lax and reckless business practices in the firearms industry or any industry that make our residents unsafe. These are the very kinds of practices that can lead to the next deadly mass shooting. I will not tolerate these businesses thumbing their nose at the very laws that our legislature and the governor have put in place to keep us safe. And I will not tolerate these businesses profiting off of bloodshed, period. Ravi Ramanathan, director of the statewide Affirmative Firearms Enforcement Office, or as I've called it, SAFE, will share with you more detail on each of these investigations, but I want to commend Ravi, Jeremy, the SAFE office, Shira, Zach, and particularly our undercover investigators for their incredible work and for working to ensure the New Jersey firearms sellers abide by our law. I also want to thank the dedicated team within the Division of Law working on litigating today's case. SAFE was created to hold the firearms industry accountable, and we're going to continue to do just that. Our work is not over. Today's lawsuits are just the latest in a number of suits already filed by SAFE against others who have violated our gun safety laws for the sake of profits. In this case, as I've said, the stores didn't ask to see any type of identification, permit, or credential of the purchaser. They just took the money without a second thought for the people of New Jersey or those that they might have endangered. New Jersey's firearm industry should understand that you cannot hide under the cloak of the Second Amendment. Our actions today are not an attack on anyone's Second Amendment rights. But gun dealers must operate within the laws of the state, and they must take every step to ensure that they do so. Today, we are standing up once again for every New Jerseyan who deserves to live free from the fear of gun violence. I'm now going to ask Ravi, Director of SAFE, to offer more details about these complaints. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General, and good morning, everybody. This year, there have been more than 400 mass shootings in the United States, shootings where 4 or more people have been slaughtered by gun violence. Some of those guns may have been legally purchased, many were not, and they were in the hands of those who were not legally permitted to possess them. No matter what the legal status was of those guns used in violent acts, in the majority of states across this country, you don't need any form of identification or permits to stock up on ammunition, even the type of exquisitely lethal ammunition that you see before you today. New Jersey is the exception to that trend. Under the 2022 gun industry public safety law that my office is charged with enforcing, gun stores must take reasonable steps to make sure that the people they sell ammunition and other gun-related products to can legally possess a firearm. The SAFE office is tasked with investigating and, if appropriate, taking action against firearm industry members who are not following or complying with that law. We are here today because the law is clear that the sales discussed in our complaints were improper. Now, the law I'm referring to specifically is, for those of you keeping track at home, NJSA 2C5835A2, which requires New Jersey gun industry members to establish, implement, and enforce reasonable controls in their sale of ammunition, ammunition magazines, and other gun-related products. The law defines reasonable controls to mean, among other duties, the establishment of reasonable procedures, safeguards, and business practices that are designed to prevent the sale or distribution of gun-related products to a person prohibited from possessing a firearm under state or federal law. That means New Jersey gun dealers, when selling ammunition, magazines, or other gun-related products, are required to take affirmative steps to determine that the buyer may lawfully possess a firearm. This legal obligation protects the public by recognizing the reality that persons who may not lawfully possess firearms sometimes acquire them unlawfully. The suits we filed today in the Chancery Division stem from 4 separate occasions where the legally required checks did not happen on visits to these stores earlier this year, and I'm going to talk about each instance. In March of 2024, Butch's Gun World in Vineland sold a 20-round box of .223 caliber ammunition, that's AR-15 ammunition, and a handgun ammunition magazine to a SAFE undercover investigator. In June, a different Butch's salesperson sold a 1,000-round case of .223 caliber ammunition to a different investigator. Similarly, in March, a salesperson at Point Blank Guns and Ammo in East Hanover sold handgun ammunition magazine to one of our team members. And in May, another salesperson at Point Blank sold a 1,000-round case of .223 caliber ammunition to a different investigator. We were disappointed and alarmed to see these sales occur. In each instance, the stores did not ask to see any type of identification. No permits or credentials were sought. And all of these purchasers were new to the store, and they made all of these purchases in cash. The stores made these sales, including vast quantities of highly lethal ammunition, without any apparent steps to exclude sales to prohibited firearms possessors. In other words, these stores had no idea who they were selling 1,000 rounds of AR-15 ammunition to. Those sales practices are irresponsible and can lead to the next mass shooting. I want New Jerseyans to know that the function of my office, the SAFE office, is no different than other civil offices and divisions throughout the Department of Law and Public Safety, where investigators are working each and every day to keep unsafe, dangerous, or fraudulent products away from individuals who have no business being near them. I'd like to close by thanking my team at the SAFE office, SAFE Deputy Director Jeremy Ershow, and the Special Litigation Section at the Division of Law, led by Assistant Attorney General David Light, who've all worked very hard to bring these cases before us today. And with that, I'll turn it back to General Plotkin.
Thanks, Ravi. Sharon, do we have any questions?
Hey, General Plotkin, Bobby from NJ Spotlight News. Just had a quick question related to bump stocks right now. After the 2017 mass shooting in Las Vegas, the Trump administration banned them, but after this Supreme Court ruling in June, a spokesperson for the Trump campaign kind of came out and said that the court's decision should be respected and kind of move forward from that. I was wondering if you could walk me through your thoughts towards the outlawing of bump stocks here in New Jersey and the efforts your office is taking to continue to outlaw them.
Sure. Well, as I said after the Supreme Court decision, bump stocks are illegal in New Jersey. They've been illegal for some time here, and as you noted, President Trump, for at least a period of time during his first administration, agreed with us on that front. Bump stocks are illegal here, period. And the Supreme Court's decision didn't affect that at all. Bump stocks convert weapons into machine guns. Like, what makes what we're talking about here, as serious as this is, look like child's play. So we're not going to allow bump stocks to be entered into our market. We'll continue to defend our laws across the board that protect our residents. And it goes back to what I was saying before. We know that in the first Trump administration, they sought to undermine our gun safety protections here. Gun safety protections, by the way, that we have been remarkably successful at defending, even in light of some fairly hostile Supreme Court precedent. And those laws keep people safe. And the women and men in my office and in police departments across the country or across the state and prosecutors' offices across the state rely on those laws to hold bad actors and bad guys accountable and keep people safe. So what we're talking about generally when they say we're going to undermine our gun laws or we're going to take a twisted view of the Second Amendment that somehow says everyone's entitled to a machine gun in their back pocket, it means more people are going to die. That's the reality. We know that. That's why Mississippi 6 times more likely to be shot and killed than New Jersey. So I'm not going to stop defending them. We've been successful in defending our gun safety laws. They've kept New Jerseyans safe. And there's a reason why for the first time ever last year, we had fewer than 1,000 people shot in the state, and we're driving that number down even lower. And I won't stop till that number's 0. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.